guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm very excited for today's video because today is my Pan That Palette 2015 finale. So I'm filming this on Monday, December 28th, so there's a couple days left in the year, but I wanted to get this filmed, and I'm just really over this project, to be honest. I'm really excited to start on all my new projects and, give this one a rest. So what I'm going to do in this video is show you the 3 palettes that I've been working on throughout 2015. I'm going to show you how far I am right now. I'm also going to insert clips from my first video. I usually delete all the videos I film as soon as I upload them just because they take up a lot of space on my computer, but I still have that one, so I thought it would be fun to insert some of those clips. And then at the end of the video, as always, I will show you my progress from the last month. So I'll show you photos from the end of November and where I am now. And then after I show you my progress, I'm going to talk about my experience throughout the last year doing this project. I'm going to talk about what I think I did right, what I think I could have done better to be more successful, and just kind of talk about my thoughts and my feelings on the whole thing in case anyone out there is thinking about doing one of these projects or is about to, just to give some advice and let you guys know how you can make it the most successful for you. So as always, I'm going to start with my Hourglass Ambient Lighting palette, and I'm just going to go ahead and show you where I am. This is the Hourglass Ambient Lighting palette. I got this for my birthday in September, and well, let me just show it to you. Here we go. You might say, wow, that's a lot of shimmer you've used up since September, and sadly that's not the case. I dropped this into my sink and it crumbled, broke everywhere. So here I have, what is it, Radiant Light. So that's what I have. The incandescent light crumbles, which I have that much. So as of this morning, I'm calling this one done. I can rub it and there's like nothing on my finger. There's like a tiny bit in this really top corner, but I don't think there's enough to really do anything with, and I just can't get it out with my brush. So, because I use a pretty, I don't ever put it anywhere with a very teeny tiny brush like this or something. So I'm calling that done. I'm very, very happy because that ended up being my ultimate goal with this palette. At the beginning of the year, I really wanted to try to use up the whole thing, and then I was just going to try to use up these two, but it really takes a long time to use up a highlight, and I was pretty inconsistent with using this, especially the highlight shade at the beginning of the year, but I did get into more of a habit of using this and reaching for it every day as the months went on. So I think if I had been more consistent at the beginning of the year, I definitely would have made more progress. I'm still not sure if I would have been able to use up all this highlight, but I might have been able to because it's about half gone, I would say now. So, and then dim light, you can tell when you look on the side that the dome of the baked product is a little bit flatter on the top, but I didn't make a huge amount of progress in that one this year because I did end up using Radiant Light all over my face. At the beginning of the year, I was just using it as a blush topper, but then I started kind of using it all over just to get it gone because I do prefer this one. So I did already film my 2016 palette, Pan That Palette challenge introduction, and so that announcement will be in a separate video, but I will let you guys know this is not the last you'll see of this. I'll definitely be continuing to try to pan this in 2016. I'm going to concentrate on this Urban Decay Pulp Fiction palette. I am obsessed with this palette. Like, once I bought it, I've used it almost every day since I bought it, and I got it in September. And there's still not even very big dips. So this one, if you haven't seen it, has 4 shades. I know that I'll probably get use out of these 2 once I use up the colors that are similar in Lorac Pro, just because I could use those every day. And next up is a palette I never intended to pan. I was just going to use it to supplement my Lorac Pro as I used up shades in there, but I have been sharing my progress on it with you guys, so I thought I would continue to do so. So this is my Urban Decay Pulp Fiction palette. This is a mostly matte / satin palette. This is my progress here. So as you can see, I hit pan on 2 shades, on Righteous and Anchor, and I did use Tyranny a little bit, but I don't think I touched Vengeance at all this year, and I might have used Furious a couple times just because I had this in my hand, but really not that many times at all. So I did think about using this in my Pan That Palette project for 2016 and just continuing on with it, but then I remembered, because I thought, I thought it might be a good option because it's very neutral. I could bring in a lot of my other eyeshadows and, you know, still get a lot of use out of this. But then I remembered how big the pans are in this palette, and these are all 1.8 grams. And for reference, one shadow in the Urban Decay Naked palette is 1 gram. A full-size Urban Decay eyeshadow is 1.5, so it's even bigger than a full-size. And I just thought I would get really sick of this. Plus, I found that Tierney is really warm. I mean, it's obviously really warm, but it just doesn't work with everything. I prefer to use cooler browns in my crease. So I decided to not, you know, force it, and I still love this palette. I think it's really great, and I'm happy to still have it, but I'm not looking to use it up completely, at least in the next year. And then finally, the big palette that you've all been waiting for, the Lorac Pro. So whenever I talk to anyone about my favorite eyeshadow, I always recommend the Lorac Pro, and I think it's amazing. I love the quality, but if you look at it, I barely have dips in any of them. I don't use it that often. I feel like I'm trying to save it for something, although I have no idea what. It's not like we're gonna run out of eyeshadow and there'll be no eyeshadow in the whole wide world until then I'll have this. That's crazy. No, I haven't hit pan on any of them. I've never hit pan on an eyeshadow, period. So I'm a little nervous about this, but we'll see how it goes. I do have a very small dips in light bronze, and they're just going to try to hit pan on them instead of maybe using them up. I think that's going to be my goal as well. I'm going to just go ahead and show you where I am. I don't think I'll have any problem using up these ones down here. As you guys know, at the beginning of the year, my goal was just to hit pan on these 4. So I did meet my goal on these 4. So the only 3 that are left behind are Mauve, Light Bronze, and Pewter. And the last month, I'm not gonna lie, was the hardest part of this challenge. I really did not get sick of this palette until basically when I got home. And I think it was partially because I had been using this for so long and I had such limited options in here, but also because I've been living temporarily in another state for 6 months and I didn't bring all my makeup with me, and then as soon as I got here and saw all the eyeshadow I hadn't had access to for 6 months, that's when I really struggled to start using this. So I will admit I did not use this every single day during December. I did probably use black every single day to set my liner, but I didn't use like light bronze and pewter every single day. If I had, I probably could have finished off at least one of them, but I'm really okay with having those left over as they are my 2 favorite shades in the palette, and you know, those were the 2 I was really sad about using up. I have found dupes in the meantime, so I'm not really as hesitant to use them up anymore, but I'm definitely wasn't like as motivated this month to wear them every day and make as much progress. So I still plan on using those up. I still really want to pan this whole entire palette, but right now just I need a break from it, and like there's no time limit for me. I do want to finish this up. I will continue to probably show you this palette in my Pan That Palette videos, but not every single month. I'll just show you probably when I use up another shade, and then when I finally finish off the whole thing. I'll probably make a separate video for that. I'll probably call it like my epilogue or something, but I'm really happy with how this went. And yeah, so Mauve, I definitely, you know, is the only one I didn't hit pan on. I definitely wasn't expecting that at the beginning of the year, but I'm still really happy with how this turned out. So now I'm just going to talk about my experience trying to pan a palette, and when I talk about this, I'm really going to be mostly talking about the Lorac Pro. I didn't find that panning the Hourglass Ambient Lighting palette was a big pain in the butt. It's not like I have a million finishing powders and, you know, was missing out using on the other ones. I'm totally fine with using the same finishing powder day in and day out, so that wasn't really a struggle with me. The biggest struggle with this was just like remembering to use it and getting in the habit of using it. So there's not really a ton to say about this palette, and I am going to continue to be panning it. So when I talk about painting my palette, I'm going to be talking about the Lorac Pro. So I've been watching a lot of people doing these types of projects, and a lot of people doing the Lorac Pro as well. And one thing I think I did right was I went straight for the shades that I liked the least, and those are the ones I tried to use up first. So in the beginning of the challenge, I started using Slate a lot, I used Champagne and Gold a lot, and those were the ones I just wasn't a huge fan of, and I think that was the right way to go, because I've seen other people who didn't do that and use the shades they like the most first. The end of the project is the hardest part, so if you use up the ones you like first, when you get to the end, you have fewer options, you only have things you don't really like, and it's really not going to keep you motivated. So I'm really glad I used these up first and tried to hit pan on slate first. One thing I wish I had done was start using the darker shades immediately. The first couple months I barely touched them, I think. I did a couple smoky eyes. I maybe used them to set my eyeliner a few times, but I didn't really get in the habit of using one of them every single day to set my liner until the past few months. And as you can see, I made a lot of progress on black, and I think if I had been doing that all year, I definitely could have used up black. But I kind of put it off because I knew I just wanted to hit pan. It didn't seem like an emergency. But I think if I had done it starting in January, I would have been able to use up an additional shadow. And who knows how far I could have come on espresso or deep purple, because I used those to set my liner as well. Aside from that, I think there isn't anything I really regret in the way that I use this. I'm really glad I chose this palette. At the beginning of the year, I was a little bit hesitant about doing this challenge because the Lorac Pro has always been my favorite eyeshadow palette, and I was afraid I would spend this whole year trying to use it up just to want to go and repurchase it again. So I guess I'll go ahead and answer that question. I know a few of you had asked me in the comments, but no, I will not be repurchasing this anytime soon. I will still say that it is one of my favorite eyeshadow palettes, and I will continue to recommend it to other people. The shadows in here are so soft and blendable. The first time I used it, when I was a super newbie beginner at eyeshadow, I tried to blend them and it was so effortless, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's what blending's supposed to be, and I felt like my eyeshadows looked perfect every time I used this. I was so pleased with it. I still feel that way, but I feel like I've really experienced, this palette as much as anyone can, and I have so many other palettes that I love, and I just don't feel the need to purchase this again. I do still have the Lorac Pro 2, and so if I want this kind of formula, I can still go for that, but I don't really see myself ever purchasing this again. If these did come in singles, there are a few I might purchase. I really love Taupe as a crease shade. It was just the perfect neutral brown, but I'm sure I can find something similar to that. And likewise, I really liked Cream, but I already have a bunch of dupes for that. But my two favorite lid shades were definitely Light Bronze and Pewter. And it kind of grew on me. It kind of just added some warmth. It didn't really ever show up as the same shade as it did in the pan on my lid, but I did really enjoy that, and that one is definitely more unique to my collection, or it was, before I used it up. So, but even still, I do have dupes for Light Bronze and Pewter. If you saw my last rehaul video, it's kind of funny because I purchased this Inglot palette. It's a kind of a custom palette last year. It was in December, and I knew I was going to be panning the Lorac Pro, so I went ahead and tried to find dupes for Light Bronze and Pewter. So I have this one for Light Bronze, and then Pewter is kind of like actually a combo of these two, I would say, because there is a little bit of purple to Pewter. And I was so nervous about using them up that I found dupes, and then here I am a year later and they're still here, but I'm totally okay with that. So I have been using Light Bronze a little bit more. I just haven't been feeling like wearing a little bit of a smokier look that Pewter gives lately, but I am going to continue to I am going to continue to use this and try to clear it out, but I'm in no rush, and I will let you guys know when it's completely finished because I will be really excited. So just some kind of a general advice about doing Pan That Palette challenges. I think it's really important that you use a palette that you really like. Like I said, this was my favorite, and I was nervous that I would want to repurchase it, and you might feel that way too, but after a year, you might be surprised that you actually realize you can live without it. So I think it's very important that you like the palette you're doing. I know a lot of people are doing the Stila palette. I forgot what it's called, in the light or in the no. I have the matte one, and everyone's doing the other one, I think. But it is really nice to do it with other people doing the same palette, because I did get a ton of great ideas from other people on how to layer certain shadows or how to use certain shadows in a way that I could find work for me. But that being said, I don't think it's imperative that you do one that everyone else is doing, because you can still get ideas from people who are painting different palettes. You can try layering the shadows in your palette, and might not be the same, but you can still, you know, get the idea to do that, or get the idea to mix them together and repress them, or get the idea, you know, to use things in certain ways. I think it's really important to choose the right palette for yourself. It has to be something you like, that you know, can deal with using day in and day out for a year, because you really are not going to be able to bring in a ton of other shadows. At least if you're like me, I'm not a big eyeshadow bully. I don't use a ton of shadow. I definitely went slower than a lot of other people I watched, so I definitely didn't get to use a lot of other things in my collection. I do think it's really important to document your progress. So if you don't have a YouTube channel but you want to try doing this challenge, I think it's really, really important to take pictures. I highly encourage you to start a Instagram. You can make a separate Instagram just for makeup. I have 2 Instagrams. It's slightly annoying at times, but it's really great because there's so many really supportive people doing the same kind of thing on Instagram, and you can get great ideas from them as well. And just, I think there are days where you look at it and it doesn't look any different and you want to give up, but then when you look at the photos, you see that you really have made a ton of progress, and that really does help motivate you. Aside from that, I don't think there's anything else I have to say. I am very glad I decided to do this challenge. I think I learned a lot. It's definitely made me think twice before buying any eyeshadow. There's definitely been a few times this year where I saw some pretty eyeshadow, maybe a palette, picked it up, and then I would think, Laura, do you know how long it would take you to use this up? And think of all the eyeshadow you already have. You don't need that. So it definitely helped in that sense. Definitely also helped me kind of stretch out of my comfort zone in terms of eyeshadow, because, you know, at the beginning of the year I was using slate all over the lid, like layered over other things, and it was a darker look than I was used to. It wasn't something I probably would have done if I hadn't tried to pan this palette, but I did find a way to work, and I really ended up liking it. So I think it's a great thing to do at least one time, to try to pan a large palette like this. But that being said, in the future, I don't think I'm going to force myself to use up shades I don't like. I think it was great to kind of do that with this and come up with ways I can make shades I don't like as much work. But in the future, I think I would rather just pan the things I like. I have plenty for the rest of my life. I have tons and tons of eyeshadow that I don't feel like I'm really wasting my money by not forcing myself to use things I don't like, because if I'm not going to like the way my eyeshadow looks, then it just seems pointless. So that's kind of something in the future. I probably don't know if I'll try to pan entire palettes, but I did really like the long-term scope of this project and seeing how much progress I can make over a year. That's been really, really cool. So that, I guess that's it. That's all I have to say. If you have any questions about anything about using a palette for a whole year, or this palette, or anything about that in general, please leave them down below. I try to answer every single comment I get, and you will see this again as I start to use up more of them, but it's not going to be something that you'll see in my Pan That Palette updates, you know, every month. So once again, that is it for my Pan That Palette challenge for 2015. I will insert the photos of the end of November and the end of December so you can compare and see how much progress I made in the last month. And I will see you with my 2016 announcement video very soon. Bye!